Welcome to part 3 of our interview with Fulton County Sheriff Walker Conley. How often do your men respond to calls regarding domestic violence?
I would say that there's probably at least approximate 5 calls per week. At least average, say one call, probably about 5 times a week.
So almost every night, or?
Yeah, pretty close.
Wouldn't be unusual to have one every night?
No, it would not, or several every night, depending on. It seems like weekends, holidays, those are the times when you're getting most of them.
Has that frequency or the number of domestic violence calls changed in the course of your career?
Yes, it has increased.
To what do you attribute that, Sheriff?
I'm not sure if it's part of the economy, a part of the stress and strains on lives right now. I do believe that when we go to these calls, like I say, that drugs and alcohol is a contributing factor to them.
Would you have any advice for a woman in a violent relationship?
Yes, she can contact us. We can help her get to a safe haven. We have a domestic violence advocacy group here in the county. We're in contact with them. There's places they can get shelter, they can get clothing, food. We can help them get away from those types of situations. A lot of the, it's hard for the women sometimes to, pick up and leave with kids and feeling guilty on themselves. That a lot of the, I'm not just talking women, we work domestic violences with both genders. But it seems like that they will feel guilty and try to put themselves at fault for this. And there's counseling that's available for them also. And we do have safe havens, shelters for them.
Do you folks have a policy that if there is when you go into an allegation of domestic violence, how do you approach that? Do you automatically run the guy in, or the alleged attacker in? Or?
Not necessarily. There's several things that we would look for. Signs of physical violence. If there's children in the home, that's a different situation that we would contact Child Protective Services, depending on how violent the situation is. If there's weapons involved. If it's a verbal argument between man and woman, there's no physical signs. We would try to diffuse the situation by asking one of them if there's some place that they could go for that evening and to let things cool off. We try to diffuse it that way. If there is signs of physical violence, then the person that is most responsible for these acts will come to jail.
Seems like it'd be hard to tell sometimes if there's a real Donnybrook. How do you decide who did what?
It's try to get both sides of the story and take a look at what you have there at the scene, see whose story is that.
Crimes against children, has that changed over the course of your career? Become more prominent?
It seems like that there's, and I don't know if it's because of the public awareness, the parents' awareness, but it seems like we have worked more, child abuse, child molest, sexual misconduct with minors cases more in the past 5 to 10 years than I recall early on in my career.
What are your thoughts on women in law enforcement? Should they be out there alone on patrol at night?
I think there's a lot of women that is very capable of and being in law enforcement. When you have one of the hardest cases for myself is to interview a child molest case when you have a younger female that is a victim. It's hard for them to talk to me about it. And the first few that I went through, it was hard for me to talk to them about it. In a situation like that, I think the female law enforcement officer would be able to relate to them really well, and they would feel more open and comfortable by talking to them.
How many women on your force?
I have one female reserve.
And out of how many?
out of, well, we have 9 full-time guys, 10 counting myself, and we have 7 reserves.
Are you looking for more women? Would you like to have more women, I guess I should say?
Yeah, I believe that we could use some more female law enforcement officers. I could use more law enforcement officers, period. But when you got 9 deputies to cover the entire county, we're pretty short-handed.
Mm-hmm. How many would you like to have?
I would settle for 1, but 2 would be nice.
Are there any situations where a woman law officer might be a liability?
I really can't think any more of a liability than a male law enforcement officer.
What are the characteristics you look for in a prospective law officer? What does it take?
Well, a lot of these are personal preferences. I want a deputy or a law enforcement officer reserve or that has similar demeanor that I do. That person is reflecting on me and this department when they're out on the street. I guess for a better word, I don't want the cocky arrogance that comes with some police officers, which comes with any profession. But I look for somebody that can treat the public in a decent manner. And also, I tell the guys, you know, these people out here in the street that you deal with every day, remember who pays your wages. There's people out there that we need to be a little bit more aggressive with at times, but don't go into a situation aggressive unless they give you a reason to be aggressive.
Is there a Fulton County Sheriff's Department policy on hot pursuit of fleeing vehicles?
It's pretty much a state policy that we have, and the pursuit is regard for public safety. It depends on the area you're in and where you're at, if we're going to continue a pursuit or discontinue the pursuit. So a lot of it depends on officer discretion, the way we are trained at the Academy of emergency driving. So it's kind of we do have a policy on it. It's kind of a policy of discretion and your surroundings.
How about cyber crime? Do you get identity theft?
Yeah, yes we do. Dan Pryor, my detective, he gets swamped with that at times, and it kind of runs in spurts. You know, he might deal 5 or 6 of them 1 week, and he might go a couple weeks and maybe have 1 or 2. But it seems like when it hits us, it hits us pretty hard.
What advice would you have for Fulton County citizens regarding identity theft or cybercrime?
Be careful on who you give your date of birth out to, your social security number. If somebody calls you on the phone and wants pertinent information such as your social security number, your date of birth, any account numbers for your savings or checking, get a number and call them back. Make sure that it is who they say they are. No bank is going to call and ask for that type of information over the phone. They will have you come in and they already know your information. So just do not give anything.
What are the 2 most difficult parts of your job?
Since becoming sheriff, instead of having the deputies do it, I do all the death notifications. That is something that I feel that's my responsibility. I know that I had done several as a deputy myself. It's something that you sure don't enjoy doing, and I feel that that's my responsibility, and take that away from those guys of having to do that. It's very stressful. It's something that you think about for several days afterwards, after you have to go give that notification. Another thing is going from working the road with the guys doing cop work to administrative work. I still try to get out and do as much as I can, but it's not as much as I want to. And I never thought that I'd ever say this when I was a deputy, but after about 1.5 years, I worked an accident because we was short-handed. And I told the guys, I said, you know, I never thought that I'd say it. Boy, I like working accidents. But it was a nice change of pace.
Mm-hmm.